Hello, everybody. It's Tara Boothby, Sojourn Psychology, Conversations for Restoration with the man, the legend, Jared Robinson.
Well, I am a man. I am no legend, but I am a man. Yes.
You're like one in a million.
Thank you. Aren't we all? Aren't we all? We totally all are. You serious?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here we go. Here we go. So Jared is no stranger to Sojourn Psychology YouTube channel. You've been here since the beginning, since 2020. We've been rocking these hangout sessions.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, man, you're
It's been a
rocking.
while.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah. And then you and I just did a big thing together. Hey, we just did the Theology Summit in Canmore.
That was pretty sweet. That was pretty sweet. And yeah, I can't believe you pulled that off.
There
Oh,
was some help. There was some help.
there was a couple people that brought muffins.
There were a couple muffins. But what was super cool was we did this creative twist, and you actually did an art installation for the summit. And so the summit, like people coming together, thinking about love in all its fullest capacity, infinite, divine, inclusive love. So maybe Milan, let's talk a little bit about the art installation that you did for us.
Yeah, that was kind of cool because it gave me a goal, one to paint towards, but also kind of a little focus on, okay, percolate some thoughts. How do I get that out? At the summit, or at the thing, uh, this one guy came up to me and was like, "Oh, okay. Oh, and when are you talking?" Like, well, I'm not talking. Oh, are you painting live? No. What are you doing? Well, my art's here. And then you did end up bringing me up to talk about it, which probably tied things in for him. Um, but it's interesting to just have the art where you can percolate on it yourself
Yeah.
without too much direction. But that talk, some people want a little direction on, especially art, right? It's like, okay, what do I do with that? Um, so that was good to you know, give them a little pointer or a little head them in the right direction or some thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes with something like visual art, the expression of art, some of us are used to going and just encountering and having a dialogue with artistic piece. So sometimes one of my favorite mentors right now, Ron Dart, he'll talk about literature and he's like, how has the book read you? And so then when some of us have been encountering these pieces of art as if they're icons and dialoguing. So you and I'm like, yeah, we'll put your art up. People are going to encounter it. They're going to dialogue with it. Um, but it was a learning curve as well for some of the people that were there. Like some of people just having the art around might have been uh, one of the pinnacle new experiences.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Um, I like the idea of, the book reading you or the art reading you. It almost makes, you could use the term kind of like it almost makes it living because
Yes.
it meets you in your time and space where someone else could look at the exact same thing decades earlier, or even you in your own life 3 years earlier or 3 years later, and it could speak differently, right? So it meets you and you kind of interact with it. Um, and yeah, if you allow it to do that way, you can not just see what the artist was intending, but you can just be like, well, what's it saying to me right now with kind of what I'm going through? And it could take on a whole new meaning for you, and you've got a whole new connection to kind of wrestle with. I don't know.
Totally, totally. And so maybe we can talk about the three images of the trees that you put forward, and I'll try to pop them in to the visual so that people can see them as we're chatting. But
Hmm.
so there's three images. And so the first image, what sort of how do you title it, or how would you explain to people this is what I'm intending?
So the three, yeah, it's three paintings. First is the tree just full of life, green, it's growing, things are well. Second image is the tree on fire, kind of burning away. And the third image is the burnt stump of the tree, and then a little shoot, a new little shoot, new little sprout growing up from the kind of the ashes of the stump. Um, and so I kind of see this as trusting the process.
Mm.
It's kind of a trust thing. We always like to stay in, stage one, everything's good. But as we kind of do life, well, we all, there's always something coming at us that's chipping away at the ego, that, or someone dies or something tragic happens, and you're kind of left with what the heck is going on. And that can seem like the end. That could seem
Mm.
like the end of things. But then to trust the process, hey, there's new life growing from this. Um, and then I kind of took the angle of, what's the quote? George MacDonald. I don't know it exactly, but the kind of the sum up is that God, love, burns away all that is not
Mm.
of love's kind. So when I think of that, if I'm the tree and all of a sudden the flames are coming, if I can trust the process, knowing that the outcome is that love will remain and anything else needs to go. And I'm like, well, yeah, I don't want, and I don't want any of that to remain anyway. I want to be only love moving forward. I know that I'm not only love yet.
Mm.
So that so with that in mind, I can trust the process to be like, yeah, this could hurt. The ego is going to take a little bit of a hit or whatever it is, or even, my belief system or whatever is going to take a little bit of a hit. There's going to be a little bit of a wrestle. But what remains is good. What remains is God. What remains is love. It's like, well, yeah, I can trust this process. Bring it on.
Hmm. I love that. And it's yeah, I was telling Jared before we hopped on that I just finished up a teaching with David Goa on Saint Gregory of Nyssa and on the making of man, and sort of this beautiful, this better truth that love is already there, and that some of what you're nudging at and some of what this piece really draws out, so that the goodness of love was there. Sometimes a beautiful abundant tree can hide the essence of love that's already there, and then the fire comes and destroys, as we see, but then love is still there, and this new life that sprouts from that.
So what's the contrast here? What is that idea that it already is, and maybe we just don't know it, versus what's the other side that it has to be attained, you have to do something to get something that isn't already there?
Yeah, I think this is really the importance. And when we're talking about this conversation for restoration, restoration is such an abundant spiritual principle for us to really take view of. What does restoration actually mean? What are we seeking restoration from? So the action tendency. And I think my institutional trauma, my spiritual abuse stuff was a lot about I have to do something. I
Mhm.
am doing something to be included. Where if love is already there, this generous, infinite, inclusive love that we already all belong to, um, it's being drawn back into this restoration. Like I'm not doing the restoring.
Mhm.
I am leaning into that restoration that I already belong to. Does that make sense? You can say it a better way.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not like I'm garbage until
Yes.
it's like the core of who I am and everybody is pure gold.
Mm,
I got to let's do everything we can to realize that in ourselves and other people. And let's do everything or participate in whatever the process is needed to uncover that, to burn away anything that distorts that perception. Um, yeah, yeah. Okay, so who's Thomas Merton? Do
he's
you
the
know?
love of my life.
Is he? Okay, you
Yes,
know this guy.
I adored Thomas is like, I'm gonna do my second thesis on Thomas Merton, actually. So go ahead and talk about Thomas. I'm fine with talking about Thomas.
So he's a little monk, isn't he?
He's a great monk. He's a North American monk, and he towards the end of his life he delved deep into a beautiful, rich conversation with more of the Eastern, more Buddhist minded monks.
Mm-hmm. So he like early 1900s?
He passed, I don't school me on this. I think it was in the 60s that he passed away. So he's a quite a modern mystic, actually.
Okay. So I came across a quote from him, uh, like, I don't know, it was like a couple of years ago. One sec. I'm gonna pull this up.
Just go through my 2 years of memories on Facebook to find the right meme.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, what did he say that was gold? Um,
Hang on there, hang on there.
hang on there, Thomas. Uh, one thing I came across this thing that he said, he says, if only they could see themselves as they really are.
Mm,
I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's not something to get that's exterior to ourselves. It's something, it's an awareness to what we already are. And when we realize that in ourselves and we realize that in others, what does that do? What does that do when I realize I'm not a piece of crap and you're not a piece of crap? When I think of that, I mean, well, go ahead and just treat yourself and other people like you're pieces of crap. But if you realize actually the core,
yeah.
the most intrinsic part of who you are is pure gold, and other people are that too. It's like, okay, wow, the core of who we are is the same. We all have different traumas and different pains and different distortions that stop us from realizing that and acting from that. But so he had this idea of like, if only we could realize who we really are. Um,
Mhm.
and the kind of the more full quote of that is, then it was as if I suddenly saw the secret beauty of their hearts, the depths of their hearts where neither sin nor desire nor self-knowledge can reach, the core of their reality. Um, they were all walking around shining like the sun. If only we could see each other that way all the time, there would be no more war, no more hatred, no more cruelty, no more greed. But this cannot be seen, only believed and understood by a peculiar gift. Um, I that's a weird word. I can't say it. um, oh, and okay, and so I kind of had this epiphany when I was walking around as well in this middle of this downtown mall where there's everybody from business people, like the high up elite to the very transient, homeless, addicted, and everybody in between, the whole spectrum. And I'm just like, man, are we all different? Or no, I just saw everybody
Yeah.
as pure gold, uh, but we don't realize it. And that actually changed my perspective. And I'm just like, man, like I just start smiling at everybody I'm walking by. I'm like you are so worth it. You're so valuable. You're so gold. Uh, yeah, whether we know it or not. So it's an epiphany. It's an awareness, maybe.
I totally agree. And I love, I just, Thomas is, he pens things so beautifully. And I mean, what's interesting about him too, his dad was quite a great watercolor painter.
Hmm.
He's
Yeah.
very good. You should look him up. His stuff is really neat. Lots from the Caribbean.
Hmm.
but that the beauty of the sunshine and the tone of the light shining on the truth of the human condition, on our pure of heartness. And I really don't like when people talk about we're diamonds covered in shit. I find that derogating. And maybe people find it derogating when I talk about us as flawed and fabulous. Like, we are whole people who are wholly loved. There
Hmm.
are these beautiful truths. And when I trust my pure of heartness, that's what William Paul Young taught me. And he spoke about that at the summit with us as well, as our pure of heart nature. I can better trust the pure of heart nature in others, and I can do better living within nonviolence. Pure of
Hmm.
heartness, inclusive love naturally leads to a better position of nonviolence. And that's Jesus-y.
Hmm. Yeah, it kind of takes the guard down. I mean, the guard goes up and we kind of like we're standoffish. We're not open to like the humanity of each other when we see each other as different or even unknown. I think anything unknown has a natural effect that we meet it with fear. I need to figure this all out so I can get rid of
Mhm.
fear. So the unknown is met with fear. And what do we do with fear? We try to control it. So now we're walking around like rigid little robots and trying to stay safe and trying to, close off from other people that could harm us. We don't know.
I think
Um,
too, it's like, I think you and I, because we were raised quite similar. I'm going to put words into your mouth, but then you can tell me if they're not true for you. But I think that we were raised to believe that fear was sin. Like, fear was wrong. Don't be afraid. You don't be afraid of all these things. Do not be afraid of death. Do not be afraid. And it's like, fear is a, an essential human experience. Our emotions are our compass. They help us to evaluate and be more embodied. So my experience, I was just like told fear was wrong.
right, right. Rather than something to wrestle with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. That's normal. Hey, I'm fearing something. Okay. Dig in rather than, oh, I'm a piece of crap.
Yeah, I'm doing something wrong, and because I'm afraid, then I'm out. I'm there's other people who have figured this out better. They somehow know how to be human and to not make mistakes, and then to not be afraid. Whereas the pain of being in an environment where I believed that perfection was attainable.
Right.
It's
And
not attainable.
heck no. Oh gosh. Like ever since I was a young kid, I was like, what is going on? It's this whole existence seems so weird. And I'm like, how do I become an adult? Well, I looked at my dad. He built our house. I'm like, I'm never going to be an adult. If that's what I can't build a house. Like there was just this like overwhelm, but this wonder and just like, what's going on here? But yeah, if you see your questions or even fear or all that as a bad thing, well, you're just going to stay stuck. You're not going to explore. You're not going to give yourself space to start walking around and figuring it out, you know. Um, so when I gave myself permission to just be like, you know what? I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it, but that's okay. I don't get
Yeah.
everything. Like we're on this spinning ball. Weird,
Very
right?
weird.
Weird. And we chalk it up as normal. What? Like I had this visual of like if we were from another planet and we came, or not even a planet, just another existence, and we saw all these little humans on this little spinning ball walking around and trying to do their little things. That would be like a science fiction. That would be a science
Totally.
fiction novel. But no, that's our reality. It's just weird. But we chalk it up as normal, take it for granted, and keep going. Where I love the wonder, I love the awe, I love looking at something and being like, man, that's nuts. Like that's crazy. Like I was
Yeah.
saying, holding a grape, this little pocket of juice. Num, 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 num. But it blows my mind. I'm like, it's a grape. It grows on trees. What? Just the awe, the crazy, the wonder. And with that, all of a sudden I embrace that wonder. I don't have it all figured out. I don't have all the answers. But what comes with that is just like, man, I'm open to what could be. I'm seeing things more beautifully when I can be in that space. I think that has kind of guided my art. A
Yeah.
lot of my art is connection, one thing and another thing, contemplating, whether it's a bear at a fire and the spark goes up, it's contemplating.
Mhm.
Whether it's, a bison riding a lightning bolt. There's a relationship there that can kind of spur on the wonder, the thought. Um, yeah, and not a lot of my art is very conclusive. It kind of it kind of gives you something to think about. You can join that thing to think about.
It's a conversation, and that's what makes good art. And oftentimes, because we have so much of your art at Sojourn, um, people will notice your art as whimsical. And there is a lot of mystery in it. And I can't remember, if I was better organized, I would have looked up my Instagram memory of the quote I want to give. I can't remember. It's the manager for, I think, AC/DC, could be Led Zeppelin. Sorry, I can't remember. But he says, God is the name of the blanket that we throw over mystery. And so much of your art is this like blanket that you're throwing over mystery. And then we're looking at the blanket, and a person can sort of notice and converse. So I love like the piece that you did for Love and Love's Energy. You didn't do it. I begged and borrowed, and you let me use it. Let's see. There we go. But the heart core. And we also had this at the summit. Um, and I love when people talk about interacting with this piece. And I
Mhm.
think I've told you the story. I had a friend who read this book, and their attachment system was very activated the whole way through. And they were mad at me a lot, they told me. And this person said, I kept turning to the cover of the book and looking at the picture because I knew there was something in that picture that said I was going to be okay. I'm like,
Cool.
I love that. Like that's the brilliance of the whimsy and leaning into questions about infinite divine love.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fun. I like that quote. I like that quote. God is the name of the blanket you throw over mystery, something like that, you said?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we're all in this crazy world and we're all like, okay, what's going on? Is there something more? Well, God is the word, the name, the handle that we give to that something more. But because it's so used and abused and maybe confined to not a mystery, everyone, like there's so many people shut off to that word because it comes with so much baggage, right? And so much like how much crap has been done in the name of that mystery, right? God.
Oh yeah,
Um,
and the misuse, and who claims God first in
yeah.
war in particular. So I mean, unfortunately, we have this terrible thing in Israel and Gaza, and it's like, who's claiming the right God first? Well,
Yeah.
when I go into the Muslim mosque and people continually say to me, there's one God and we all believe in the same God, that does a better thing for me
Hmm.
because there is one God and we all believe in the same God. There's one God.
And that also stops us from pitting each other against each other, hopefully, or maybe a little glimpse of that. If we see that the ultimate divine mystery is my version or your version, or they're different, well, that's you start warring. My God's right, my way's right, my way to see things. I need this, and then we pit each other against each other and we start fighting. But um, yeah, when we can see each other, we have all these little continents, all these little compartmentalized, all these differences. But if you kind of zoom out, okay, what's the similarity? Well, we're all humans. We all breathe the same air. We're all on the same spinning ball. Um, and yeah, instead of making each other our enemies, what if we have the common goal of just, hey, what's our enemy together? I'm sure there's a quote or some saying around the idea of like, coming together and we stop fighting each other when we have a common enemy, something like that. But what if that common enemy isn't just another people group or another thing? But what if that common enemy is just like anything that's not love?
Or what if our common is our restoration to infinite divine love that's already there?
Yeah, totally. And then we start living into that rather than, I'm sick of these wars. Like, come on, people.
I know.
Right?
And go ahead.
No, it blows my mind, and it's so sad, and it ticks me. It's man, just hurt everywhere, and it's just a cycle. It's a perpetuating cycle if we
It
just keep
is.
buying into it.
And we choose war so frequently, like and then we're distracted by these larger genocides, which we should pay attention to. It's necessary, and figuring out how we do nonviolent protest. And then there's also these wars going on all around us. Like, I know you and I both care greatly for the marginalized, the LGBTQ plus two-spirited community in particular, and this gross war against fellow humans.
Mhm. Yeah, and you look at history, and it's just like I don't like. Are we getting better? Has this always happened? It's just a different reasons to fight. And sometimes I'm like, maybe we are getting better, you know? Yeah, sometimes, yeah, I'm discouraged.
Well, and the discouragement of this habit, our in our anthropology, it seems habitual that in the history of people, we keep trying to find an enemy. And if it's not the Palestinians, then it's the LGBTQ plus community. And if it's not the LGBTQ plus community, it's the Muslims. And if it's not the Muslims, then it's white men. And if it's not white men, then it's transgender women. And it's like,
Always, it's always out there. It's right. So it's always someone else. And that goes back to, I need to protect myself. It's fear. I got to protect myself from the unknown, but it's always pointing the finger, right?
yeah,
Um, and so I like those. I like the idea of stop pointing out what they're doing wrong. Look at your own. Look at the speck in your own eye. Like to be the love. Go through your own process. Uh, fight the crap in ourselves. Whatever's stopping us from loving, rather than saying you got to fix everything so everything's right. If we all kind of stepped up to kind of owning our own stuff and that process internally, I think what comes out is a perspective about other people and a love for other people, and then that's the effect of the
mm-hmm.
internal work.
I really love that. I think it lends right back to the conversation about your three trees. And so often we try to put on this facade of being this beautiful and abundant, successful, producing the foliage.
Oh yeah.
But the better tree is like, well, I mean, if I can point right, this one, that one there.
Yeah.
The better tree is the tree that has been had everything stripped away to find the restoration to infinite divine love and the new life, the new budding that comes from our restoration to the place that we've always belonged.
Mhm.
That's good
I love that.
psychology. I'm just saying,
Yep.
that's good psychology.
That works.
That works.
That. Yeah, good old, yeah, if you take on that process of working on that stuff and seeing what is love, what's not, kind of letting a lot of that stuff go. That's like, what's her name? Brené
Renee,
Brown. She talks about the vulnerability, right? Good old
totally.
Breen. She
Brainy Brownie.
Breeny Brown. Uh, the vulnerability of just like, man, hey, I am not perfect. Ugh. But not to get hung up on that. Just be like, yeah, we're like, yeah, we all have stuff. We all have hang-ups. We all have distortions. Okay, can be honest about that. And then that vulnerability, actually, she calls it out as a superpower. I mean,
Yeah.
anytime that I actually share with someone something that I'm struggling with, rather than just, looking like I've got it all together, it's so often met with a compassion of just like,
Yeah.
or a reciprocal, like, oh man, me too, I struggle with this. All of a sudden we're real and we can kind of talk about that outside of this kind of like, um blocked off kind of shame approach, right?
Yeah. And it's powerful even to just confessing our own humanness, like being alive in the life that we're given. And this is again, I love Brene. I think Brene Brown is a great theorist, a great author for men to read. I'm just saying
Mhm.
sometimes guys don't know what to read. Read Brene Brown. You can call her Brenny or Brownie or whatever you want to do. I don't think she minds. Just read.
She's cool.
If
She's
you
cool.
paid for the book, she's not going to mind at all,
Yeah,
right?
call me.
Um, but that our vulnerability is a superpower. Our vulnerability, our truth about the essence of who we are. That there is a better sense of self. There's a deeper rooted. Virginia Satir calls the depth of who we are. Our I am. I like
Mhm.
that as somebody who still is okay with Christianity. I like knowing that at my deepest depths is my I am. I like that.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, that's good, man. And you know what? As a creative, um, I mean, the brain, that is the creative brain. It's the part of the brain that goes there. That's the part of that thinks, that feels, that dreams, all that, right? And when I go to those places, I mean, I mean, my art is very conceptual. But that's where it just starts coming. It's like, oh, I got this idea, or I understand something from a certain angle like that. And that's where the trees kind of come from, right? Oh, paint that as a sequence of, it's not like a literal heart or mind or body that's, burning. It's the trees. And I mean, look at Jasper, look at Fort Mac, look at anywhere
Yeah.
almost in the world is burning right now. So we see that natural, kind of that natural progression of the burning away. So we see it
Well,
around us.
and nature's reminder again, it's like the renewal, the restoration again, the life finding a way, life finding a way to reveal itself yet again. And the forest fires are nature's natural design is that these trees burn and they come back. Um, and I don't know. I mean,
Mhm.
like I'm not a forester, I'm not in the forestry biz, but
Part.
uh, I do know that like we have a place in BC, and when the trees get way too big, we have to pull them down because an old big tree is a danger. And an old
Mhm.
big tree can start to rot and they could fall, they could kill somebody or crush a house, they could um yeah. And and I don't know. So we're moving into something really philosophical here that I didn't think we are going to land into, but here we are. This sort of
Yeah.
like it's sort of, I don't know. I think it goes back to something you said before, like trying to control. We're trying to control and be producing beautiful trees. And yet, sometimes when it's all about what we're doing, or maybe often when it's all about what we're doing, we may be blind to the fact that some things need to end, or we may be afraid of those things that need to be ended. This fire, that I think that love is a fire, that we want love to burn out all those things that are not of love's kind.
Hmm. I think I read somewhere that there is actually certain plants that actually require
Mm-hmm.
a burn of the forest to actually live and survive or break out, you know?
Yeah.
We get so hung up on this thing has to stay alive, not realizing the only way for this to live is for this to die.
Yes. The only way
And
for
so
this to
what,
live. Yeah.
right? And so what in us, what part of love is not living or thriving because I'm trying to protect this thing that I see as the it that this and that's where we get safe. uh this is safe, this is known, this is safe, so I'll protect this at all costs. But what's suffering, what's not living, what's not growing, because it this actually requires that to say bye bye.
I agree. I mean, I think this is, again, it's good psychology, it's good spiritual practice. This is a better truth, that there's, to live, some things need to die. And those things inside of me, the coping stances, the default mechanisms, the automatic ways of being that I've created to look great by my own estimation, it's frightening.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
if I'm raised to believe that fear is a sin, or fear is a wrong thing, I'm doing something wrong if I'm afraid, it's really hard for me to confront. How do I put down those pretend behaviors that are actually um keeping me distant from community?
Mhm. There's what's her name? Lisa Harper. You know her? She's an author.
Dr. Lisa Harper.
Can't remember her name. She's talking about the multiple deaths. The death. So sometimes I can get stuck in the brain and just think about things. Oh yeah, that does make sense. That does. But then how do I live into those things? How do I embody that idea? But you think of all the little deaths you have during the day, and it could
Yeah.
be as simple, I can't make this painting. I can't carve out the time for this painting to come to life if I don't uh, take 3 hours and the death of sitting in front of Netflix so that I can have 3 hours in the studio to create. Like, it's not all just this, like, woo, love, but like, what are the very tangible, realistic things that we can die to this so that this can live?
Yeah.
Um, I can die to, um, you know, working longer so that I can my girls
Yeah.
and jump on the trampoline or go camping or whatever, right? But yeah, it's just very tangible. One thing, you have to say no to one thing to say yes to the other thing, right?
Yeah. And yeah, and it's hard. It's hard to say no to things that we think other people expect of us. And it's hard to, the sort of the image of this beautiful, abundant tree. And then I think too, like, the fire that's come through. And you and I know each other as friends. So like we know when each other's going through the fire and the pain of the fire. And I think that being very real about the pain of the fire also draws us to a better place where we can love others who are going through an even worse, longer, a deeper destruction, a more isolated, a more marginalized pain.
Yeah, we can relate. I mean, yeah, if you go through a tragedy or something super painful, maybe, yeah, eventually you come out there, you kind of learn to cope with that, or to have that part of your story. Um, and you're not always in the super sinking, the super dark or whatever phase, but you have compassion for that phase because you've gone through it. So when other people are going through it, it's just like, man, that is hard. And I don't understand everything that you're going through, but I
Yeah,
have a compassion for that you might be going through, right?
I like that too. I think that that is really important. And I'm glad you scooped it up. I have compassion for other people's worse, longer, harder, deeper fires, even though I haven't experienced it. And then I can honor it better when I'm coming alongside of somebody in their pain place. I'm not going to talk about how painful my life is. It's so
Mhm.
hard
Turn it back.
when, yeah, because we can empathize and we can care, and then we can listen. I think about that. It's interesting to think about a forest on fire. And when I've been in a forest fire, and I know you lived a long time in British Columbia, northern British Columbia in particular, when the fire's going through, there's not a lot of talking, there's a lot of listening.
Yeah, and grouping together. Because all of a sudden, if sometimes, yeah, no, I'm not gonna. Well, sometimes there's a part of me that weirdly likes hospitals, that weirdly likes disaster, only because out of context, that's probably not the nicest thing to say, but only because we stop seeing others as the enemy and we're like, we need to get through this together, no matter
Yeah.
who you are, you know, especially
Yeah.
like a natural disaster that affects everybody.
Yes. Yeah. And the quiet, I mean, even I think that's why people like lockdown. There's a strange enjoyment when we had all these lockdowns in 2020 because it got quiet. And I think there's something in that, the listening, we're not very good at listening. I also hear some nudging towards Berber's stuff of, the when we're in the abundance and in the beauty of our foliage and we're just these great, beautiful trees, it's easier to live in an I it mentality, dehumanize, to look at the other trees and how do you look and how do I look compared to you, alternate comparison levels, all these like subtle toxic thoughts about my identity versus the identity of another. But when we touch our own brokenness, when we embrace that we are perfectly imperfect, our imperfection is a part of our perfection, the I thou ness, the sacredness. It's like you're not an it, you're a thou. You're an essence of this beautiful, infinite divine love that you're seeking to be restored to just as much as I am.
Yeah. If the norm becomes everyone's perfect and polished, we're shocked when we show our vulnerabilities or when we see someone else showing their vulnerabilities or even their meanness or whatever. But when we understand that, hey, man, we all got stuff we're going through, when we understand our humanness, we're not shocked when we see it, and that's hard to kind of live in that space of understanding that about other people all the time. But like when I can remember that and I meet someone that's not very easy, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not shocked. Of course, man, we all go through stuff. Okay, normal. That's normal.
Yeah.
What can come from it? Then there's the wonder, then there's the dreaming of like what could be. How could I encourage this person? How can I not say this and maybe take a softer approach and say this? I don't know.
No, totally. I think, and it's the hard intention. I mean, trusting our own positive intentionality so that we can move more with positive intentionality. When we get so caught up in the doing and the proving and the being being holy, rather than just I am pure of heart. And like William Paul Young says, I'm just doing the next right thing. Like I've
Mhm.
I've been
Mhm.
meditating on that more lately. Like I would like to embody just doing the next right thing a heck of a lot more.
It's in the moment. It's in the moment. It's rather than, as he would say, future tripping and or past shaming or whatever. It's just like, what's the next thing? You're living in the moment.
Yeah. 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 And there's no them, just us. Brian's on.
Is that what he says?
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the end of A Farewell to Mars, final
Yeah.
chapter. There's no them, just us.
Just us. Yeah, that's a good book.
It is good. Okay, so we've had a lot of conversations to get to this conversation. Hey, we've been talking a lot of psychology, a lot of theology for 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, a lot, and allowing ourselves to go there. Just like, yeah, it's okay. It's okay to ask, wonder, doubt, question, keep walking.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's like because I call Jared my theology buddy, and sometimes I feel like people are like, "Ooh, I want one of those." Find one. Find a friend who like I think we've just spent a lot of times asking questions we had no idea about. We've
Mm.
asked stupid, some questions were stupid, I think, and some were amazing.
You know, it's like the creative process. You at that table, you got to throw everything out. That's how you kind of get to different places. But if you're scared to ask the stupid question or throw out the kind of out there idea, you're going to hold back and you're not going to get to the gym.
Yeah. Yeah, to the pure of heart, that inner. And and I just think part of like the whole thing of this series, this YouTube series, is these conversations for restoration and having these conversations and showing these conversations to others so that they could say, well, maybe I can lean into more of those spaces. And when you find a friend on the trail, that you can converse with, then take courage, be friendly with your friends and talk about interesting things.
It's great. Not everybody likes to dive in. It's lots and it's unknown, a lot of it. Not
It's
a
the mystery.
history, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to go there sometimes. We like to lock it down.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't want to look under the blanket where the mystery is, then just try to figure out what the blanket looks like that's covering it up. And however you want to call that blanket is fine. The blanket, it doesn't discriminate against the language that we use to label it or to try and understand it. All right. So Jared, you're gonna be a moving and a shaking this summer. So lay it on us, bro. Lay it on us. What you have on the agenda?
On the docket. Uh, you know what? Nothing actually.
Nothing.
It's not, it's nothing. Uh, Nothing crazy. I'm in town. I'm doing a couple art walks, the Big White Ave one, Strathern one, in September. And then my buddy Glenn and I, he's an awesome artist. We're thinking about maybe doing an art show, maybe in August with our friends over at Urban Timber and do like a bunch of vintage cars and then maybe a painting with each car.
Cool.
And it might not be all new stuff, but we'll see what we can do. But having, yeah, and then just have some beer and hang out and music and kind of our jam again. And yeah,
I think that's great. And I liked your last show at Urban Timber. It was really cool. But I mean, everybody don't go unless it's all original, brand new pieces. You have 6 weeks.
that's it. That's it. Nothing new. Seen that? Boring.
Yeah. Vintage
Yeah,
cars, no vintage art.
right. Right?
No,
Yes.
bring all the art. That's what I would say. Bring all the art, the old and the new. Um, yeah, and of course Jared's talking about events in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Canada. That's right. Um, yeah, I haven't ventured too far because how do you, man, it's gonna get wrecked. It's expensive. I don't know. So
Yeah,
come and see me and my art. Come anytime.
yeah. And I suggest follow Jared on social media if you haven't already, so you can track him down on Instagram, Jared Robinson Art, and he's back on Facebook. So find the new account. I will put the info in the description below. And thank you so much for participating and being on the sharing team at the first Theology Summit that we've done. It was brilliant. And thank you for the vision of the art installation, because it brought a richness to the conversation that would have been gravely missed.
That's cool. That's cool. You ever go to someone's house and you're just sitting in the living room and you're doing this, you're playing that, you're talking, but whatever art they have up on the wall, it's just there. It's their art and it's behind the wall. You're not even talking about it, but you're looking at them and kind of slightly past them at times at that art. And you're sitting there for 2, 3 hours. You're seeing that art. So it just gives you something to be like, oh, why do they like that art? What is that art? What does it look like? Yeah, get to percolate with it.
I agree,
So,
the percolating. Yeah.
right. And you know what? What were you going to say?
No, you go ahead. I was just probably breathing. I don't know.
um, all those like shows of people going to fancy art galleries, and there's just people in front of one piece of art on the wall. They just sit there for like a long time. The kid in me is like, boring. What? You know, like, see it, got it, good, move on. But there's something about seeing art in person and giving yourself space to just kind of sit with it. Even a thought, an idea. Books are good because it takes time to read, but art is usually often seeing it, got it, good, keep going. But to kind of sit with something and
Sorry,
see.
something just fell in my office, but go ahead. What was that?
I know.
Yeah, speaking of art, it was some art that I had loosely, but yes, it's it's iconography. And there's this thing of like, yes, there is a divine tool and a beautiful specific art process for true iconography. But art is iconography, nature is iconography. Each person is an icon to be
Mhm.
seen and enjoyed. And so much of I think what I'm leaning into in this conversation is the listening. The listening to the silence, the listening to the book, the listening to the good quote, the listening to the piece of art, and the listening to our anthropology and the fullness of our humanity. And I think it's again Zahn. I love quoting Zahn, but I'm pretty sure he's the one that says beauty will save the world.
To sit with something, let it percolate. What's it saying to you? That time that you give that space in yourself to kind of think and listen and all that is a protest to the hum of the world we find ourselves in. You're a badass, you're a rebel anytime you actually give yourself space to just sit with something for a little bit longer, because everything else is humming so fast and it's go, 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 got to do this, got to get that, got to be polished here, whatever. But, protest that and just slow it right down. Be a
Yeah.
badass, slow down.
Listening is the new nonviolent protest.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Boom.
Boom. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yes, great idea.
Okay. Well, peace and love. And thank you so much, Jared. And yeah, well, I'm sure we'll do this again. That will probably happen.
Oh yeah, we like thinking and talking and percolating.
And you and YouTube.
And YouTube. Yes. Always more to come.